I'm so excited to be here with you and diving into week number 3. So let's do a little bit of housekeeping first, and then we'll get right into the content. So first things first, I just want to remind you to actively post your homework in the group. Remember what I said to you in the last session, that when you publicly declare something and you claim it in that way, the likelihood that you are actually going to create those results and do what it takes to not only actively create what you want, but also manifest what you want goes through the roof. So I just want to remind you to show up in the group and actively post your homework every single week. The second thing I want to remind you and invite you to do is to be present in the group throughout the week. I hop in every day. I'm reading your comments. I'm watching your videos. So I want to invite you to be present in the group a few times a week, not only, sharing support and congratulations for the other women in the group, but also just talking about your own experience and talking about your process and asking for what you need inside the group. Really, really important skill for you to be practicing, showing up and asking for what you need, and then being open to expecting that you receive what you need. It is a habit that I've been practicing actively and consciously for 18 months now, and it's made a huge, huge positive shift for me in my personal life and in my business. Third thing, do not forget to schedule time for your homework. This week's homework, and actually most of the week's homework, is relatively intensive. It's going to require you to go deep. This is not a surface coaching experience. So if you want the deep transformational results, you've got to create the time and space to dive into what I give you. Now, typically each week, I'm not going to give you more than about 3 points for homework, but they're not just quick one-off things, because that's not how we get results. So I want to remind you to schedule time every single week to dive into this. And here's a little just kind of note. You may want to schedule the time earlier in the week rather than wait to the weekend. And here's why. Things like your kid getting the flu happen over the weekend. And so a lot of the things you may leave to the weekend might not get done. And then you're going to feel like you're behind the 8 ball here, which is, you're never actually behind, but this is a time limited experience. So I want you to be able to build week after week after week. So set yourself up for success by not allowing yourself to get behind. All right, so you have gotten clear on your desires. You have created a clear vision for those desires and how you truly wish to experience them. And now moving forward into the rest of this program, we are going to be tapping into the tools that you've been given, most of them innately, naturally, just by being a human being, but we're going to learn how to bring them together and have them working together in a smooth way so that you can create ease around having what you desire. We're also going to be talking about how you remove the blocks that show up with these tools. And primarily speaking, over the next few weeks, we're going to be talking about your conscious mind, your subconscious mind, and your brain, where a lot of people think the mind is housed, but I don't actually believe that. And today, I'm going to give you just a brief lesson on the differences between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how you begin to create mastery and how you use the conscious mind. Now, this is a very vast, broad, deep topic that you could get multiple advanced degrees in if you wanted to and go back to school. But that's not the way I'm going to approach this with you. I'm going to give you a taste of the learning because the learning part is just so delicious. But more importantly, I'm going to give you actionable things to go do, to go create, to go integrate, so that all of this is not just an up here learning experience, it's a becoming coaching experience, okay? So here's a couple of really interesting points that are valuable for you to understand about the difference between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. And the reason I'm teaching you this is because a lot of coaching that you will see online or offline, especially mindset coaching, is going to have you do things around your conscious mind. They're powerful things, they're important things, but one of the biggest mistakes, one of the biggest gaps, I should say, that I see in the transformational coaching space, especially the mindset space, is that people are not teaching you how and why to access the subconscious mind. So the subconscious mind is something we're going to get into in just a couple of weeks, but I want to at least introduce you to this in a way that allows you to wrap your brain around it, have it make sense, and understand why I'm going to ask you to do some of the things I'm going to ask you to do. So first things first, and then also in a couple of weeks we'll be, well, actually next week, we'll be diving into the brain and how we use our subconscious and conscious mind to start to get the brain, the actual structure of the brain on board. But for today, let's talk a little bit about the difference between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. So I'm going to read you some points of interest about the conscious mind. So here's what I need you to understand. The conscious mind is the part of your mind that you are aware of. It's the way in which we access our deeper creativity. It's where intellect resides, where logic resides, where focus and attention are tapped into. And the job of the conscious mind really is to take in data, information via all of our senses. Okay, that's how we receive information. And then accept or reject that data in order to create perceptions and judgments, and most importantly, to make decisions about what actions to take or not to take. It is objective. It has no memory, and it can directly impact the subconscious mind, which is where we hold our beliefs, our programming. It's where our programming resides. Now, interesting, just sort of fact about the conscious mind, it can only handle or process about 7 plus or minus bits of data or information at a time. So it feels really big and powerful to us because it's what we are aware of. But in truth, and the numbers and the percentages are arguable, but it is really only responsible for somewhere between 5 and 12% of what we experience every single day, which isn't very much. And this is why I think so many people make the mistake of focusing their habits and choices around creating shifts in life based on just what you are consciously aware of. Now, when you understand, though, that the conscious mind has a direct and powerful impact on the subconscious mind, that's where things begin to get really, really juicy, okay? So I want you to start to think of the mind in terms of a computer, just because that's a very easy way to think about it. The conscious mind kind of acts like the monitor and the keyboard. So you can actively input programming, and you can see and have the experience of what the output of that programming looks like and sounds like. But there's no hard drive there. There's no memory there. It's not where the program resides. So that's a really kind of easy way to think about the conscious mind. Now, when you think about it that way, you think of it in terms of the computer, you understand the power of the hard drive, but you can't really access the hard drive without a monitor, without a speaker, without a keyboard of some sort, the mouse, all that stuff, right? So it's really important. The computer is going to run the best when everything is hooked up and running smoothly. Okay, so that's the way I want you to start to think about the conscious mind. The subconscious mind is responsible arguably for somewhere between 88 and 95% of what you experience every single day during your waking time and your sleeping time. So here's the interesting thing. Well, there's lots of interesting things about the subconscious mind. So it's where all your memory resides, every single memory you've had since you kind of came online at birth. It processes 20,000 bits of information at any given time without you even being aware of it, okay? It is programmed by your thoughts 24/7, all the time, all the time. It never ever sleeps. So your conscious mind will go to sleep, your body will go to sleep, your subconscious mind never ever goes to sleep. You can access it via meditation, hypnosis, visualization, subliminals. It speaks via emotion and imagery, not via language, which is really important. We're going to talk about that when it comes time for the homework. It's where your gut instinct resides, which is, I'm sure you've had that experience of, oh, my gut told me or my intuition told me. That's where it resides. That's how you access it. Okay. It shows up in your body and you become aware via your conscious mind, but it is housed in the subconscious mind. It's also in charge of basically all of your sort of automatic physical functioning, your breathing, your heart, your digestion, your elimination, your, all the internal processing that goes on that you don't have to make a decision about. Well, thank goodness, because if we had to actively make decisions about things like breathing and our heart pumping, I can't even fathom that. Now, the subconscious mind acts sort of like the hard drive. So what is programmed in is what is in charge of what the output is, maybe is the best way to explain it. So it's where all the programming is housed. Now, here's the really important takeaway. Your subconscious mind has no ability to reason, none whatsoever. It merely functions based on the quality of how you program it, much like a computer. So the computer, unless you have virus detection, doesn't know the quality of what you input. It just kicks out based on how you programmed it. The subconscious mind works exactly the same way. So if you program in toxic, limiting, negative beliefs, it's not going to say, well, Kelly, that's not really great quality, and then do something about it. It says, okay, this is how you programmed me. This is how we now function. So that is incredibly important for you to keep in mind, because the quality of what goes in is determined by what you do with the subconscious mind. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. And that's what your homework is going to be all about. Increasing the quality of what you allow to linger in your conscious mind and cross over into your subconscious mind. All right, quick sip again. Now, how do we shift, improve, and change the quality of what goes on in the conscious mind and what we allow to go into the subconscious mind? Well, beautiful thing is, it's done via three things you already have access to just by being born: self-awareness, directed focus and attention, and your ability to make decisions about behavior change. Those are the three things. You're already in one state or another around those things all the time. So really, our work on the subconscious mind is just about becoming more precise, more specific, more intentional, and more consistent around what we think, how we attend to what we think, and the decisions we make based on what we think. Okay? So here's what you need to understand about this. You guys have probably all heard the phrase, thoughts become things. And I love it. It was, I think, coined by Mike Dooley. I don't know if you know him. He's he's kind of in that transformational author slash coach field. He works a lot with law of attraction. And I love that phrase, but I have always found that it was, it just didn't have enough meat for me. Here's what I want you to understand about thoughts becoming things. Your belief system that is programmed into your subconscious is just the result of thoughts that have been thought over and over and over and over again without being resisted or tweaked or changed. What we believe is what determines how we feel, and it determines what we do. And that's how thoughts become things. Now, it also has a huge energetic impact on things like law of attraction. And we can have conversations about that, but that's not what this program is about. But do understand that your thoughts and your beliefs will have a direct impact on your energetic vibration. Really, really important. So by doing this work inside this program around your mindset and your mental strength and the quality of your conscious and subconscious mind, you're automatically having a positive impact on your energy and vibration. So that's a pretty cool thing to keep in mind. But here's the deal. You have got to begin to shift your mindset around the power of thought. Your thoughts need to be seen as seeds that are being planted and sowed in your garden. And your garden is your life, your business, your experiences all together. And I think too many times we just haphazardly plant whatever is habitual, whatever is in front of us, whatever is convenient, whatever has been given to us by other people in our garden. And then what grows, we go, I did not want zucchini. I wanted tomatoes, or I didn't want onions. I'm allergic to onions, right? And we act shocked and we go, this garden, while I'm grateful for having a garden, this garden is not creating the feast that I desire. So we've got to start looking at our thoughts as being so incredibly powerful and stop treating them like these things that we can just allow to float through our minds and our brains all the time and not do something about the quality of them. So understand this, thoughts can be objective or thoughts can be subjective. So an objective thought is just very simply a thought that happens, as the result of general learning, general thinking, general experience. They're not really infused with a lot of feeling or emotion. And so a lot of just objective thoughts, they don't cross over into the subconscious mind. So a subjective thought, however, is going to be infused with emotion, and you're probably going to create a lot of imagery around it. And so think about that, because all the things you quote unquote worry about are just repeated subjective thoughts. And the more and more you have them, the more they affect your programming. This is incredibly important. The same is true for the things that light you up, that make you feel passionate, that make you feel just positive or joyful or peaceful, or any of those positive emotional states when you think them. They also have the power to program the subconscious mind. So in a lot of ways, we are all, to one degree or another, mentally blocked. And you know you're mentally blocked when you're clear about what you desire, and we already did work around that, and what it looks like and feels like and how you experience it. But you're struggling to experience it. So you may know you desire it, you may even know you deserve it, but you're still blocked from experiencing it. And the reason, more often than not, is because subconsciously you do not have a belief system that supports your desires. That's what we are shifting in this program. Okay, so really for the purposes of this program, what we're going to learn to do is to use the conscious mind, the power of the conscious mind, to hack the subconscious mind, because that's where the party's going on, and we want in on that party, okay? So there are really 3 ways I'm going to teach you how to do this. Number one, I want you to understand you must be very purposefully aware of your current thought patterns, belief patterns, and behavior patterns, because they're all intertwined. So we've got to raise your level of self-awareness around how you've let your conscious mind run amok, basically, and how that has had an impact on what you believe and then on what you decide to do or not to do. Really, really important. And I'm going to give you a homework activity to just help bring that up a notch. Number two, becoming really tuned into how powerful your ability to focus and attend to thoughts is, and then becoming very precise about what you allow your focus and attention to rest on, and whether it's aligned with what you desire and what your vision is, or it is in opposition to what your desire and vision, well, what they are. And number three, consciously creating and committing to new habits that allow you to shift from struggle to ease. And so those are the three things we're going to be focusing on. And here's what they look like. Number one, you have got to discover, in other words, have ahas about your current negative self-talk patterns and habits. What are the negative thoughts that are on repeat and probably have been in one form or another for your entire life or a big portion of your life? We've got to get really clear on what those patterns are, because they're unique to everyone. Now, yes, we tend to have lots of similarities across the board as human beings, especially when our struggles are similar. We can usually trace them back to similar roots, but you've got to become really aware of how you're hearing them in your own mind. So that's number one. Number two, we've got to replace them. And this is not as simple as, oh, just think happy rainbow puppy. I call them with my girlfriend, I say they're rainbow and Sandra Bullock thoughts, right? Like these happy puppy romance, whatever thoughts. It'd be great if you could just kind of like think about those happy things and your whole life changes. It requires a little more effort in terms of consistency, self-awareness, and being precise. And the way that we replace these old patterns of negative self-talk is by using two things. These are what I have used. And I have to tell you, I've shared with you in the past some of the challenges I've had in life. Diagnosed depression, being suicidal twice, diagnosed eating disorder for 7 years, anxiety with panic. I've had a chronic physical illness since 2014. I have a child with special needs. The list goes on and on and on. And I know for a fact I would not be in my current and expanding state of abundance if I did not have this kind of mental fortitude that comes from what I'm teaching you, okay? There are two ways. Once I am clear on the negative patterns, thinking patterns that are happening, and I have to do this work all the time, okay? I know that I need to replace them, and I replace them using one or both of two methods. The first is using power statements. Power statements are not simply affirmations. I know affirmations are a big word out in the, personal development world, but they have never really worked for me, and they've not worked well for my clients. And there are very clear and positive reasons why. So what I recommend people do is, once they've discovered their negative self-talk, they're going to replace the negative self-talk when it pops up with a power statement. A power statement is very simply an affirmation on steroids. And here's why they work better than affirmations. So a power statement is written in the now, much like an affirmation. So in the positive, as if you already have what you are desiring. It is also written in terms of positive, meaning saying yes to something rather than saying no to something. So instead of saying, I no longer, I no longer hate myself. That's a really obviously strong example, but I'm not fat anymore. I'm not broke anymore. That we don't want to word things like that ever, because both your subconscious mind and the universe hears fat and broke. And the reason your subconscious mind hears it is because fat and broke are pretty energetically charged words. So your subconscious mind is going to hear that. Instead, you are writing these statements in terms of being aligned with what you desire and having it right now. Now, the way I tend to write them is from a place of active appreciation. Active appreciation is a little bit different than gratitude. This was taught to me by a mentor of mine. And he said the difference between appreciation and gratitude, neither one is bad, but the word gratitude comes from the word gratis. And gratis means free. So lots of times the emotion and the energy behind somebody saying I'm grateful is really more about I got something for nothing. And that doesn't always feel good. But active appreciation is completely different, because you can appreciate equally something you've received, a struggle or a problem you're having, a person, a breakthrough, a tangible thing. You can be in active appreciation of anything at any time. And so I will quite often write, and I do highly recommend you write your power statements out in your journal. And I'll talk about this in a minute when I talk about the homework, that I am so appreciative that I now fill in the blank, feel, am, have, whatever it is. So that vibration of active appreciation means that no matter what the circumstances were for how something showed up, you are in full receiving mode of it and completely appreciating it for what it is, for who that person is, for who you are being. Now, some people, when they do power statements, feel a lot of resistance come up. So there's two ways to manage this. The first way is to just tweak your power statement just a little bit in towards being an active and unfolding state. So instead of saying something like, I am so appreciative that I am now rich, I mean, something in you might just go, girl, you are so not rich. And you're going to feel resist. You'll either feel it come up or you'll hear it come up in your head. And your head's going to say something like, well, that's bullshit, because that is not what you are experiencing right now, right? What you can do, and I found that this really softens the resistance, is write something like, I am so appreciative that I am now creating, becoming, allowing, shifting, having, manifesting. And just by making that slightest tweak, it allows your resistance to decline, because your mind can much more easily buy into the fact that you are in the process of, if that makes sense. Sometimes your mind is going to have real resistance to I am, I have. If it's not already here, if you're not experiencing it being already here, because it's going to look at it in black or white fashion. Well, we want to backdoor your resistance as much as possible. So that's the first tweak. You rewrite it as I am now actively what? Having, being, becoming, shifting, allowing, receiving. Okay? Allows you to reduce the resistance. Now, if you find that you try that and your resistance is just full on, then I'm going to invite you to try the second way to replace your disempowered thoughts with empowered ones. This technique is called Afformations, F-O-R, and it was created, and the term was coined by an author and coach by the name of Noah St. John. And in the homework, I'm going to give you a link to his book. It's a great, excellent read. This is a great technique. But for our practices, you don't even need to do a deep dive into it. You can just use it, and let me teach you about it. This is about shifting from asking disempowered questions in your thinking, which is big time part of most people's negative self-talk, to asking much higher quality empowered questions. And let me give you an example. So you may find when you do your homework and you discover your negative self-talk, the chatter, the inner critic, all of that, you may find that you ask questions like, why am I always broke? Why am I having so much trouble with sales? Why am I always taking non-ideal clients? These are not empowered questions. They're not. They're questions that are going to shut you down and that are going to trigger negative emotions that cause you to be stuck in the thought and the emotion. Worry, anxiety, shame, guilt, anger, frustration, concern, okay? We want to create a new habit around asking empowered questions. And that's what the whole affirmation technique is around. So when you do step number 1 of homework, which is really becoming very clear on what the negative self-talk is, you're going to start to ask a different question. Let me give you an example. So instead of saying something like, I'm rich. Okay, that would be, say, the first affirmation. Big resistance. The question around that might be, why am I always struggling with money? Why do I always have debt? Why am I always broke? Why is there never enough? That's a big one. Why is there never enough? Okay, disempowered question. So we have a disempowered thought and a disempowered question. You would ask, why am I always so rich? Why is it always so easy for me to pay my bills on time and in full? Why is it so simple for me to close a sales call with an ideal client? And here's why you're going to ask the question in that format. Your brain your brain in it has something called an embedded presupposition factor. And all that means is your brain is wired when asked a question to actively seek the answer to that question. You're doing that all day long, whether you realize it or not. Now you're going to use this to your benefit purposefully by asking more empowered questions. So again, instead of, why am I always working with crappy clients who don't want to pay me or don't see my value? You're going to say, why is it always so easy for me to attract ideal clients who I love working with, and they're always seeing the value in me? And you're going to just let your mind and your brain go to work for you. It will actively engage both your conscious and your subconscious mind. Okay. And number 3, sorry, one more sip. Number 3, you're going to identify incongruencies between what you desire and your vision and the patterns that have shown up in your life. In other words, patterns like constantly self-sabotaging, getting close to something and then stopping yourself or making mistakes or falling off the wagon or giving up, self-sabotage. Patterns like having, creating, manifesting, and then quickly losing it. Giving up just before you get there. This is a really common one. Hitting the gas and the brake constantly. Gas, brake, gas, brake, gas, brake. It's exhausting. You'll know if you do that. Getting close, really close to what you desire, but never fully experiencing the having of it. So identifying these patterns, it's going to allow us to get very clear on what's going on in your subconscious mind. And we're going to be working on that in coming weeks, removing and shifting the blocks, and then reprogramming with much higher quality beliefs. But this kind of detective work, the things I'm asking you to do for homework today, is going to reveal lots and lots of clues to us while also allowing you to take some action to increase the quality of how your conscious mind functions. So let's talk about your homework. Number one, for the next 7 days, and you are not going to want to do this, I'm going to tell you right now, this is not fun. It is going to require effort, and you're not going to enjoy it, and that's totally okay. It's only for 7 days. But for the next 7 days, I want you to keep a journal or a voice recorder, very handy, and I want you to quickly record the negative self-talk when you hear it. And it has to include the negative disempowered questions you are asking yourself. And I want you to record as many as you can catch. This is an arduous task, okay? You don't have to do it 24 hours a day, but I want you to make an effort several times a day to tune in, which means you're going to have to practice being mindful. It may require you to stop what you're doing and breathe. It may require you to set the intention right now to be more aware of what is going on up here, okay? And record it. This is going to reveal to you the patterns of thought, of conscious thought that are on loop for you all the time. Now, some of them may not be terribly surprising to you. You may have some level of awareness that they've been kind of hanging out there for forever. And some of them might really catch you. When I practice this, some of the crap that I catch sometimes is mind-blowing, especially because I've done this work forever. And this is the reminder I want to give to you. You may have done a lot of work on this prior to coming to this group coaching experience. Please do not beat yourself up with the thought, I thought I already dealt with this. I thought this was already done. You are always and forever a work in progress. And just because that thought is still lingering doesn't mean you didn't do a good job before. It just means we have a little more work to do. So give yourself some grace around that, okay? And again, I'm somebody with advanced degrees in this who's practiced this for, gosh, over 20 years. And I still regularly do this work to keep myself on track and to allow myself to advance, okay? So 7 days logging and tracking the negative self-talk that pops up and including the negative questions. Number 2, as you go along and you see these negative statements, negative questions pop up, you are going to write either or both power statements and empowered questions, affirmations that you want in place instead of the negative self-talk that's constantly going on, okay? So in other words, we are consciously and purposefully creating higher quality thoughts that you want to be exercising, and we are going to use those statements as part of what and how we reprogram your subconscious mind in the weeks to come. So this is really important. So if you're noticing thoughts all the time of, oh, it's never going to get better. I'm never going to make more money than this. I'm never going to be happier than this. I'm never going to be more successful than this. Why am I always struggling? I want you writing your power statements and your affirmations that are going to replace those thoughts. Okay. And number 3, I want you to think back to the things in the first week you said that you truly desire, but that you don't currently have either at all or to the degree that you desire. And I want you to start to jot down in your journal the patterns around not having what you desire. If you would like to, in your journal, jot examples of when you sabotaged, when you practiced gas and brake, when you had but didn't hold on to it and lost something, when you gave up right before quite possibly you were going to have or experience that situation, then go ahead and write down the examples. but I want you to begin to get really honest about your patterns. This is also incredibly important detective work in terms of uncovering the quality and the sort of exact root beliefs that are banging around in your subconscious mind that we need to uproot. So those are your 3 homework steps. Start your negative self-talk running list and catch the thoughts and the questions and write them down. Number 2, write the power statements and affirmations, the empowered questions that you want instead of that negative self-talk. So the negative self-talk is going to directly influence the power statement, which is usually written as the complete opposite of the negative self-talk. And number 3, begin to journal about and uncover some of the behavior patterns that you have seen unfold time and time again in your life and in your business that really are responsible for you not currently experiencing what you desire. I can answer questions around this. I can support you in the process of the writing down, of the confronting, of the rewriting, because you might feel some resistance around rewriting it. Understand your resistance is normal. Don't battle it. Don't fight it. It just makes it kind of dig in a little bit deeper. We're going to work with the resistance. And one of the ways we work with resistance and work through resistance is by me coaching and supporting you through it. Even if you don't have a question, it'd be really powerful, and will throughout the program be powerful, for you to be present for other people's questions and the answers they've received, because you can benefit just from the listening of that and the vicarious learning. Okay, so show up, start your homework immediately, especially the running list. Start it today. Crack out your journal and get going, because I guarantee just listening to this content today has fueled some of that chatter. Catch it on paper. Your self-awareness is such a powerful tool. And then dive into using focus and intention and attention around what you want to replace that with. And then write about and uncover and admit to some of these behavior patterns that are not supporting you in having more of what you desire, and write them down, because they're going to be powerful clues for us moving forward when we do the subconscious work. All right, everybody, I'm going to send you off into your week with much love, and with just reminding you that I fully believe in your ability to create these shifts and to have what you desire. I want to remind you that your desires and the having of them are your birthright. Your worth is a birthright. So you are worthy of all the things that you deeply desire. And now all we have to do is just a little bit of sustained, consistent work around shifting your tools, your mind, and how you deal with your emotions, so that they're really aligned and supportive of you having what you desire.